The day Carl died, a part of my world crumpled. 18 years. 18 years of shared laughter, quiet evenings, the chaos of raising 3 children, the triumph of building a successful business from the ground up. He'd been sick for a while, a swift, merciless illness that stole him from us too quickly. There was a hollow ache in my chest, a profound sense of loss, even for the man whose passive-aggressive tendencies had so often pricked at my self-esteem. He was the father of my children, the anchor of our family, and his absence left a gaping wound. The will reading, a week after the funeral, was a sterile, unforgiving affair in a lawyer's office that smelled faintly of lemon polish and old paper. Melissa, then a hopeful 17-year-old, sat beside me, her hand clutched in mine. Matthew, now formidable at 24, and Jenna, 22, sat opposite us, their faces composed, almost imperious. The lawyer, a man with thin lips and even thinner patience, read through the dense legal jargon. My heart sank with each passing clause, a cold dread seeping into my bones. The family home, the investments, the life insurance policy, Carl's cornerstone construction, all of it, every single asset, was bequeathed to Matthew and Jenna, to be split equally between them. There was no mention of me, no mention of Melissa. Nothing. 19 years ago, on a blind date orchestrated by a well-meaning but ultimately misguided friend, he'd brought me a small potted honeysuckle plant. He was a widower then, his grief a heavy shroud that somehow, paradoxically, made him seem more fragile, more in need of warmth. I, a young woman fresh out of a broken engagement, was looking for a fresh start. A purpose. Carl offered both, albeit in ways I couldn't possibly foresee. If you've ever felt invisible in your own life, this story is for you. Hit subscribe, because what happens next will shock you. My name is Vanessa, and this is my story. Carl had 2 kids, Matthew, a serious-faced 6-year-old with his father's dark hair, and Jenna, a cherubic 4-year-old who still clutched a worn teddy bear. Meeting them, it wasn't just love at first sight with Carl. It was an instantaneous, overwhelming rush of affection for those children. They were so young, so vulnerable, and my heart cracked open for them. I embraced them, not as stepchildren, but as my own. I read them stories, braided Jenna's hair, helped Matthew with his homework, and chased away their nightmares. We became a family, or so I believed. Carl and I, years later, completed our little tableau with Melissa, our own sunshine-haired bundle of joy, a beacon of pure, uncomplicated love. Carl's construction company, Carl's Cornerstone, felt like another child I adopted. When I met him, it was teetering on the brink of collapse, a house of cards built on shaky foundations. Carl had a brilliant technical mind, a visionary's eye for structural integrity, but he was, to put it mildly, not a people person. His criticisms, when they came, were less about constructive feedback and more about a quiet, steady erosion of confidence. He never raised his voice, never overtly demeaned, but his words often lacked the soft cushioning of empathy, leaving a faint, lingering sting. Business suffered because of it. Clients drifted away. Employees felt undervalued. He was passively aggressive, always finding a way to chip away at my self-esteem without ever truly confronting me. I saw the potential, though, the solid framework beneath the failing facade. I had a knack for organization, a genuine warmth that helped soothe ruffled feathers, and a drive that Carl, for all his talent, seemed to lack when it came to the day-to-day grind of client relations. So, I stepped in. I started managing the accounts, reaching out to old clients, smoothing over past grievances, and bringing in new business. I revamped the website, streamlined operations, and even helped design some of the smaller projects. The company, slowly but surely, began to flourish. Carl, content to retreat into the meticulous world of blueprints and budgets, embraced the booking side of the business, leaving me to handle the human element, the clients, the employees, the public face of Carl's Cornerstone. I was proud of what we built, convinced we were partners, a true team, forging a future for our children. I was wrong. I was, in his eyes, just hired help. Hired to step in, to raise his children, to save his company, and ultimately, to be discarded. My breath hitched. My hand, still holding Melissa's, trembled. It was as though 18 years of my life, 18 years of dedication, sacrifice, and love, had been erased, rendered utterly meaningless. I was Carl's wife, the mother of his youngest child, the woman who had nurtured his family and saved his business, and I was left with absolutely nothing. The silence in the room was deafening, broken only by the rustle of papers as the lawyer concluded. If this makes your blood boil like it did mine, leave a comment below. Have you ever been erased from someone's life after years of sacrifice? You're not alone. I checked the date on the will. Perhaps there was a mistake. Perhaps it was outdated. It wasn't. It was last updated 18 months ago. This was deliberate. Melissa's eyes, wide and filled with a pain that mirrored my own, met mine. She couldn't comprehend it. Neither could I. As soon as the lawyer dismissed us, I turned to Matthew and Jenna. My voice, though strained, held a desperate plea. Matthew, Jenna, I began, trying to keep the tremor from my words. This isn't right. Melissa is your sister, your father's daughter. Surely you can't. You won't let her be left with nothing. Matthew, the younger version of his father, met my gaze with an arrogance that made my stomach churn. Vanessa, he said, his tone cool, dismissive. Dad made his wishes very clear. We are simply honoring his last will and testament. It's what he wanted. Jenna, ever the loyal echo, nodded beside him, her expression hardening, avoiding my eyes. It was a betrayal so profound, so absolute, that it stole the air from my lungs. Carl's passive aggression, his quiet criticisms, had always gnawed at me. But this was a bludgeon, a final, definitive statement of my worth in his eyes. 0. Days blurred into a haze of disbelief and grief. We were given a month to vacate the family home, the home I had made, the home where Melissa had taken her first steps. Matthew, with the audacious confidence of inherited power, announced he would be taking over as CEO of Carl's Cornerstone. He then had the utter gall to expect me to stay on, to train him in his new role. The entitlement was astounding, a bitter echo of his father's unspoken assumption that I would always be there to fix things, to serve. Train you? I repeated, my voice dangerously soft. Train you to run a company I rescued from collapsing, a company your father explicitly denied my daughter and me any share in? No, Matthew. I stood up from the mahogany desk that had been mine for years, the desk where I had signed countless contracts, nurtured countless relationships. I resign, effective immediately. The look of genuine shock on his face was almost comical if I hadn't been so utterly broken. He hadn't anticipated that. He had expected me to whimper, to plead, to simply fall in line. But the woman who had built Carl's Cornerstone from dust and grit was done bowing down. This is where everything changed. If you're rooting for me, smash that like button, and stick around to see how this ends. Melissa and I moved into a small 2-bedroom apartment near her university. It was a drastic downsize from the spacious home we'd known, but it was ours, a sanctuary we built together. The first few months were a blur of grief, anger, and fierce determination. I had a degree in business and a lifetime of practical experience. I had clientele who respected me and employees who often sought me out over Carl. I wasn't just hired help, I was a force. I decided to channel my expertise in a new direction. With the last of my meager savings and a small loan, I started my own interior decorating company, Vanessa's Vision. It was small, just me and a laptop at first, working from the kitchen table of our cramped apartment. Melissa, though heartbroken by the injustice, was my rock, helping with admin, offering moral support, and reminding me of the strength I possessed. We struggled, yes. There were nights I cried silently into my pillow, wondering how we would make rent, how Melissa would continue her studies. But with each small success, each satisfied client, a little piece of my spirit healed. And then I watched. With a quiet, almost detached satisfaction, I watched Matthew and Jenna run Carl's cornerstone into the ground. They had inherited the crown, but not the kingdom's true wealth, its relationships, its reputation, its soul, which I had cultivated for so long. Matthew, with his arrogance and lack of people skills, alienated clients. Jenna, directionless without Matthew's lead, failed to pick up the slack. Projects were mismanaged, deadlines missed, quality suffered. Within 3 years, the company that had once been my pride, a testament to my hard work, was a shadow of its former self, its trucks rarely seen on the road, its name whispered with disdain in industry circles. It was a bitter vindication, but a vindication nonetheless. Years passed. Melissa thrived, proving that true resilience isn't inherited, but forged in fire. She excelled in her studies, bright, compassionate, and fiercely independent. I had built Vanessa's vision into a respectable, flourishing business, focusing on bespoke designs and client-centric service. We traveled, we laughed, we built a new life, stronger and freer than before. Then came the day of Melissa's university graduation party. The air was thick with proud anticipation, balloons bobbing, glasses clinking. Our small apartment was filled with laughter and the warmth of genuine affection from friends and a handful of loyal colleagues who had stood by me. Melissa, radiant in her cap and gown, accepted hugs and congratulations, her smile bright enough to chase away any lingering shadows. Everything was perfect, until the doorbell rang. What happens next will give you chills. Keep watching. The doorbell rang, an unexpected chime in the joyful symphony. My heart gave a strange lurch when Melissa opened the door. Standing on our threshold, looking utterly out of place amidst the happy chaos, were Matthew and Jenna. They looked older, wearier. The arrogance had faded from Matthew's eyes, replaced by a subtle desperation. Jenna, typically so composed, fidgeted with her purse strap. They wouldn't dare approach me directly, not after all these years. Their gaze darted past me, searching, pleading for attention from the one person they believed might still offer it, Melissa. "Melissa," Matthew began, his voice a little hoarse. We heard about your graduation. We wanted to congratulate you." Jenna nodded, offering a small, hesitant smile and an awkward hug. "It's been so long, Melissa. We've missed you." My daughter, my beautiful, strong daughter, took a deep breath. She looked at them, not with anger, but with a quiet, unwavering resolve that made my chest swell with pride. Her voice, though soft, carried an undeniable authority. "Thank you for coming," Melissa said, her gaze steady, unflinching. "But frankly, I'm surprised to see you here." She paused, then continued, each word a carefully placed stone. "You know, I spent a lot of years trying to understand what happened, what we did to deserve being cut out of Dad's life, out of your lives. What kind of a family does that?" Her eyes met Matthew's, then Jenna's. "Real family," she stated, her voice gaining a quiet strength, "doesn't treat each other the way you two treated Mom and me. Real family doesn't leave their little sister with nothing just to honor their father's wishes. Real family steps up. They protect. They include." Matthew's face flushed. Jenna looked down at her feet. They had no reply. They could offer no excuses, no apologies that would erase the years of hurt, the stark injustice. Melissa offered them a sad, almost pitying smile. "This is a celebration of hard work, perseverance, and the people who stood by me through everything. My real family." She gestured to the room, to the faces beaming with love and support. "They're all here. And you two, you're not a part of it anymore." If you're cheering for Melissa right now, drop a heart in the comments. Have you ever had to close the door on toxic family? Tell me your story below. With that, she gently but firmly closed the door, leaving them standing on the outside looking in. The honeysuckle that bloomed in our tiny balcony garden, a gift from a grateful client, released its sweet, comforting scent into the warm evening air. It was a different kind of honeysuckle, a symbol not of past betrayals, but of new beginnings, of strength, and of a love that, unlike Carl's, was truly unconditional. And for the first time in a very long time, I felt truly, completely at peace. That peace lasted exactly 3 months, until the day Matthew's name appeared on my phone screen. The message he sent, I never could have imagined what he'd have the audacity to ask me for. What do you think Matthew wanted? Drop your wildest guesses in the comments. I'll pin the best theories. Part 2 drops next week, and trust me, you need to see this. Hit subscribe so you don't miss it.